Soldato nemico in arrivo. Controllate l'attrezzatura, si entra in azione. A tutte le unità, parla Shadow 01. Dispiegamento autorizzato.
Accendere i motori, tutti pronti, 3 minuti e si parte! Eccovi! Abbiamo il via libera, Warzone vi aspetta! Prendete le vostre cose, 3 minuti al decollo! Fuoco autorizzato su ogni minaccia! Fate attenzione là sotto!
Battle Royale. Stare alla larga dal gas, raggiungere la zona sicura. Ha fatto fuori il bersaglio ricercato. Contratto completato, ricompensa in arrivo.
Nemici in questa zona. Arrivano dei nemici! Attenzione in alto!
Soldato nemico in arrivo. Gas in arrivo. La tua squadra ha raggiunto la zona sicura.
Wait. Chat, did you hear that? Oh my god, dude. Oh, I almost had him. Did you hear the footsteps while I was flying over his ass? What the Hi YouTube, Art here again with another audio video, and this is the video that a lot of you have been waiting for. I'm going to take that 4-part playlist and condense it down into one guide. Over the year of working with Warzone 2 audio and now kind of perfecting it for Warzone 3, whatever we're calling it, Warzone Urzikstan, I've found a lot of issues that people have ran into, mistakes along the way, mistakes that I made, video that I'll hide meter. All put converted out to your stereo, you will get errors if it's going on. But if you want the audio to work, don't ask, hey, can I use this? Hey, can I use that? Focus your efforts on following the guide, installing the software, and configuring it appropriately, and it will function. In further guides in the future, I'll offer alternatives for hardware control of the audio tune, as well as some place on the star position place I've follow the guide and you will have great audio at the end. Now, before we begin, we're going to need all of the pieces. If you want it all in one place, I've linked the download package down below that has all the applications in it. It has the config files in it, as well as the text file that has the loudness EQ command. Credit to that GitHub developer down below in the description. Now, there is also the way to go where you can download each of the executables separately from their respective websites. You can see both, and then the loudness EQ script is the config file. You'll see they're in here, they're the config files, and then the loudness EQ scripts, which we'll use later. And then this is the whole package, which has all of the applications, which in this case is, again, hi-fi cable, voice meter, equalizer APO, Hisuvi, and replugs, as well as the config files, which we'll be using. These might be named slightly different upon release, but the effects inside will be the same. Like the previous guides, I have uninstalled everything on my PC and I will be starting fresh. And I will be starting from the application package, which I've linked down below. Like I mentioned earlier, you can get them all from other places. This is the easiest way to download everything in one place and get it all at once. So I will be installing from that. The first thing you need to do is obviously download that. You'll start in the application pack, and I've named each folder in order that we need to install it. So you'll go to hi-fi cable, you'll double click, and you'll install the hi-fi cable. It will go through its steps. It says you need to reboot to complete. We do not want to reboot yet. Do not reboot until I tell you to do so in this video. So we'll hit OK. We'll go back. We'll go to voice meter. We'll install voice meter. We'll click install. We'll let it do its thing. A browser window is open on my other monitor. You can close that. It's not windows, like in conjunction at the very core. Also prompts to restart. We're not doing that right now. Once you've installed voice meter, you can go down to equalizer APO, run this installer. Now this part is really, really important. People seem to want to install this just anywhere. Equalizer APO works with Windows, like in conjunction at the very core, and it doesn't behave appropriately when it's installed anywhere else but the directory that you see on the screen right now. It must go to C/program files /equalizer APO, and it cannot go anywhere else. So this must be default. If you've installed it before and you've installed it somewhere else, that probably contributed to your problems, but click next here. Again, click install, let it do its thing. Now, an important part about Equalizer APO, it's actually two main applications that we're to be using. The first one is configuration editor. That's where all of the configurations and the EQs and the effects that we're to be loading are applied. The other is called Configurator, which is on the screen right now. Configurator decides where Equalizer APO is installed. And the way you should think about Equalizer APO is it's going to flag the audio device to say, hey, look for these effects in Configuration Editor. And the only one we want to change is the hi-fi cable here, because what we're doing, like I said in the intro, is we're creating a virtual cable with our effects on it so that we can choose that cable inside of Call of Duty and have better audio. So from this list inside of Configurator, this is important because we'll be coming back to it later. You're going to want to find the hi-fi cable here. You're going to want to check it. and then select it in blue like I have it here. This allows you to go down to the bottom and click troubleshooting. This step, at this point in the step, it should have 2 boxes here for premix and post-mix install APO checked, and it should say install LFX GFX. That's it. Once that's checked, you can hit OK. It says here this dialog can be reopened anytime by launching configurator.exe in the installation directory. We're going to have to do that in a second, but for now you can hit OK. You'll get a prompt here that asks you to reboot. You'll want to check I want to manually reboot later, and we'll click finish. Once that's done, we can go back and we'll install Hisuvi. Once you run it, it'll ask, do you want to unpack Hisuvi into the config folder of Equalizer APO? This is why it's important to install Equalizer APO in its stock location. We'll click yes here, and you'll have this crazy command line pop up and install a bunch of stuff. Let it do its thing. It'll take a second, and then you'll see Hisuvi pop up. This is Hisuvi. This application is linked to Equalizer APO, and its job is to take the 7.1 surround sound that Call of Duty is going to be put out and mix that down to a stereo signal that we can hear on our stereo headset. So right now, we're not going to configure this. We'll come back to this later. You'll just want to right click it and click pin to taskbar. Mine says unpin because it's already been pinned. Just pin it to the taskbar so we can come back to it later. For now, we'll just close this window and we'll continue installing. Sometimes on most PCs, it'll look different on Windows 11, depending on your theme settings. This window will pop up. So long as Hisuvi opened and you saw all of the bars and the different options, you can just click this program installed correctly. Once you're done with that, you can go back and we're going to install Replugs. Now, Replugs is just a set of VST plugins that we will install to modify the audio. Leave all this default, click next. Must be installed to its default directory here, so go ahead and click install. Once it says complete, you can click close. It says Replugs are now installed. You can click OK. Now, that is the end of the install portion. What we need to do now is turn on loudness EQ on the hi-fi cable that we installed. So the first thing we'll do is we're going to open the sound control panel on Windows. Now, there's a lot of ways to do this. On Windows 11, if you go down to the bottom and right-click and go to sound settings and then scroll down to the bottom to more sound settings, I believe, you can open it. On Windows 10, it's super easy. You right-click the speaker, you click sounds, and you'll get this panel. The universal way to open this on any system, you can type mmsys.cpl. It'll open that same window. So we'll want to be in the sound control panel for this. You'll see here in my sound control panel, I have a lot of devices. What we're going to want to do is we're going to scroll down and we're going to want to find the hi-fi cable input. You can ignore this other cable. On my system, you won't have this. This was for my own testing. If you want a guide on how to add a cable for regular loudness EQ down the line, let me know in the comments down below. The first step in configuring this hi-fi cable is we actually have to configure it. So once you're in the sound control panel here, select it in blue and click configure at the bottom. You'll have this window pop up. Well, it'll prompt you to define the speaker configuration. You're going to want to select 7.1 at the bottom. You're just going to click next, 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 and finish. The next step here is actually enabling loudness EQ. So what we'll want to do is we'll go to the Windows search bar and we'll type PowerShell. We'll have Windows PowerShell here. You don't want ISE, x86, or Windows PowerShell x86. You just want straight up Windows PowerShell. You'll right click and you'll run it as administrator, and this blue window will pop up. We're going to move that to the side for now. So you'll see two text files. One is normal loudness EQ and the other is called super short loudness EQ. Now, again, shout out this developer Falk OSC. They have been providing this on their GitHub since I've started tuning, and it's been a huge help. So huge shout out to them. But I had missed this step where they had added this little blurb, and I'll show it on screen right now. Enable this if you want a shorter release time. Only good for gaming, kind of not nice to listen to in other things. Release time refers to how long the compressor, which is loudness EQ, will stay compressed before it resets. And the faster it can react, the more accurate it can be to adapting to changes around you, like gunshots or explosions. So it's something that I've been playing with for the last couple days. It's what you've heard on my stream. If you've watched it, it's what you've seen in clips. I've set this up for most creators that have come through, and I think this does help a little bit. I don't know if it's a lot, but that's the script that we'll be using today. So you'll want to go ahead and open up the super short loudness EQ enable.txt. You'll just want to select the body of this. So from invoke web request down to release time 2. And that's the special thing. The previous command was just this. There will be special instructions at the end of the video for people that already have the tune on how to enable this step. So you'll hit Control C, or you can right click and copy, and you'll come over to Windows PowerShell and you'll hit Control V to paste, and you'll hit enter. Now it'll ask if you want to change this policy. In my language, English, the letter to say yes to all is A, so I'll type A and enter. And then it'll ask for the playback device name. And we are going to want to add loudness EQ to the hi-fi cable input. So we'll type hi-fi cable input. Now at this point, before you hit enter, from this point on, audio is going to break on the PC until we get to a certain step, because we're modifying a lot of stuff in the audio engine. So just be wary. That's why I said, watch this video on another device. Pull out another computer if you have it, and pull up this video and start the video again. When we hit enter here, on some PCs, it works instantly. When I press enter here, it'll probably be instant. For some people, they say, oh, this isn't working. What do I do? I used to offer another workaround. That workaround does not work. You must be patient, my friends. I promise you, I have ADHD and I have messed up so many of these because I just wasn't patient enough. After you hit enter, just wait for it to say importing loudness EQ something enabling. It will pop up. Sometimes I've hit enter twice. Just go get a drink, go get a snack, come back, and I'll show you what it looks like. So I'm going to hit enter right now, and you'll say import loudness activation into the registry, restart audio to apply registry settings. And you saw my sound control panel refresh on the left over there. So that's how you know it works. For some PCs, when you hit enter, it will just sit there. Import loudness activation will not pop up. You must wait. Go get that snack and we'll start again. So now that you've enabled that, we can close this window. There's another step though. The step of turning on loudness EQ actually breaks equalizer APO. So what we're gonna do is you can either search configurator. Some of you have indexing off, which means you can't actually search. So we're gonna go down to E for equalizer APO. We're going to open it, and we're going to open configurator right here. Now, this is the window that popped up when we were installing equalizer APO. And if you notice here, hi-fi cable is no longer checked. That's because we did the enable loudness EQ step. It's kind of funny. In order to enable loudness EQ, you have to have equalizer APO installed on the virtual device. That adds the flag in order to turn that on. But turning that on breaks equalizer APO. So that's why we're opening configurator again, and we're going to want to go to the hi-fi cable. We're going to check it, we're going to select it in blue, and we're going to click troubleshoot down here, which shouldn't be checked for you. Now, by default, it probably loads up like this for you. So it'll say with it highlighted, install as SFX EFX. Most of you either missed this step or you just simply left it like this and hit OK. You have to make sure you change it to LFX GFX here, and all 4 boxes on premix postmix are checked. Once that's done, you can hit OK. It'll ask you if you want to restart. We're not going to restart yet. Go ahead and hit no. Once you've done that, we're going to want to come back over to the playback tab, hit configure, just make sure it's still 7.1. You can cancel that. Go to properties and go to enhancements. You don't even have to click enable here. Just go to settings, crank this all the way to the short side, which is now super short. Come back over to the playback tab, hit configure, just make sure it's still 7.1. You can cancel that. Go to properties and go to enhancements. You don't even have to click enable here. Just go to settings, crank this all the way to the short side, which is now super short because we set that special command in the PowerShell. Go ahead and hit OK and hit apply. And now, just to make things super easy, we're going to rename this device to Art Tune. You can rename it to something else. For me, that's just been easy. It's what I've put on other streamers' PCs so they know what they're using when they use it, because the way this tune works is it's only applied to this one device. Once that's done, you can just hit OK. While we're still in the sound control panel, we're going to want to find the hardware device that you use to listen to the game. For everybody, that's going to be a little bit different. Could be the port that you plug your headphones in, could be the mix amp that you use to listen to your Astros, the game DAC for your SteelSeries. The list can go on and on. It's going to be different for everybody. For me, it's this Realtek digital output, which is my optical port that goes to my Go XLR. We're going to want to hit properties on that. We're going to go to enhancements. If you have it, if you don't worry about it. We just want to make sure that loudness EQ, virtual surround sound, all of that in here is turned off, because we don't want to stack effects. We're going to do all of the tuning on the virtual cable. Make sure no spatial sound is turned on, and we're going to go to the advanced tab. Now, this is really important. Everybody's hardware is going to be different. We just want to make sure the digital output, which is you plug your headphones in, could be the PowerShell. Go ahead and hit OK. and hit apply. And now, just to make things super easy, we're gonna rename this device to Art Tune, so they know what they're using when they use it, because the way this, you plug your headphones, you can just hit OK. While we're still in the sound control panel, we're going to want to find the hardware device that you use to listen to the game. For everybody, that's going to be a little bit different. Could be the port that you plug your headphones in, could be the mix amp that you use to listen to your Astros, the game DAC for your SteelSeries. The list can go on and on. It's going to be different for everybody. For me, it's this Realtek digital output, which is my optical port that goes to my Go XLR. We're going to want to hit properties on that. We're going to go to enhancements. If you have it, if you don't worry about it. We just want to make sure that loudness EQ, virtual surround sound, all of that in here is turned off, because we don't want to stack effects. We're going to do all of the tuning on the virtual cable. Make sure no spatial sound is turned on, and we're going to go to the advanced tab. Now, this is really important. Everybody's hardware is going to be different, but make a note of what it is. If you have options, the best you should do for this audio tune is 2-channel 24-bit 48,000 hertz. If you can't and you're locked into 44.1, that's okay. Just make note of that for the next steps that are about to come up. Now, you don't need to run it at 96,000 hertz. You don't need to run it at returns, and some of the steps in this audio guide require either 44,100 or 48,000 hertz. So make sure your device is one of those two. Once that's done, you can hit OK. We're going to want to go to the recording tab here, and we're going to want to make some changes, because each of these cables has a different side to them. It's kind of complicated. We're not going to go into it, but there's an input and an output. We just want to rename the same icon here to the same thing we did over on the previous tab in the playback tab. So I'm going to name this Art Tune, and then under advanced, this is really important. This defaults to 44.1. My hardware device was 48,000 hertz or 48 kilohertz. So by default, if we go back and look here, this side of the cable on the playback tab is already set to 24-bit 48. For some reason, this side doesn't set to that, and if you don't change this, you'll get crackling. So you got to go in here and you got to change this to 2-channel 48,000 or 44.1 on the other side if your headset only does 44.1. If you can change your headset or your audio device to 48,000 hertz, change it to that, and then make this match the other side. Once that's done, just make sure the name sticks. It didn't because I canceled out. Hit apply and hit OK. Now, the other thing we're going to want to change when we're in here is we're going to go to the voice meter output just below it. Hit properties. We can't rename this, unfortunately, without it bugging stuff out. So we'll just change that to the same 24-bit 2-channel 48,000 hertz. Hit apply and hit OK. Once you're done with that, we are done in the sound control panel. If you want, you can double check on the hi-fi cable. Just make sure you have loudness EQ enabled, and we can move on to placing the configuration files. So we're back in the app pack, and we'll go to the config files section now, and we're just going to select both of these files. Like I said in the intro, these files might be called something different on release. I'm just working with the workshop files I have right now. Don't worry about that. I guarantee you whatever's in the links in the description is the most up-to-date files. You'll want to select both of these text files, right-click, and hit copy. Now we're going to go to a totally different folder for Equalizer APO and add these. So we're going to go to our local C drive. We're going to go to Program Files. We're going to go to Equalizer APO. We're going to go to Config. And inside this folder, we're going to right-click and paste. Now, it's going to add these. So we're going to go to our local C drive. We're going to go to Program Files. We're going to go to Equalizer APO. We're going to go to Config. And inside this folder, we're going to right-click and paste. Now, it's going to ask if you Equalizer APO. Select both of these text files, right-click, and hit copy. Now we're going to go to a totally different folder for Equalizer APO and add these. So we're going to go to our local C drive. We're going to go to Program Files. We're going to go to Equalizer APO. We're going to go to Config. And inside this folder, we're going to right-click and paste. Now, it's going to ask if you want to overwrite the files here. Click yes, it's fine. We're going to overwrite the config. If you don't, Equalizer APO, we're going to go to Config. And inside this folder, we're going to right-click and paste. Now, it's going to ask if you want to overwrite the files here. Click yes, it's fine. We're going to overwrite the config. If you don't, it's going to write the config file in with a different name, and then the software won't recognize it. Once you paste those files in, we are done with that. Now, this step is totally optional. If you feel sketched out about deleting parts of an app, don't do this step. But this does remove an error that pops up in Voicemeeter because we renamed the cable. Some of you were getting bad audio driver error. If you want to get rid of it, follow me. We're going to go to Program Files x86. We're going to scroll down and we're going to find VB. And we're going to go into the Voicemeeter folder inside of VB. We're going to scroll all the way down and look for this file called VB Device Check. This is what checks the names of the virtual cable. If you don't want that error, right-click this, hold Shift, and click Delete. It's going to ask if you want to permanently delete this file. Click Yes, and you will no longer get that error. With that, we're done poking around in Explorer. We're going to go ahead and move on to Configuration Editor inside of Equalizer APO. In order to get there, you can search Configuration Editor here, or like I said, you can hit Start. We're going to find the E Programs, Equalizer APO, Configuration Editor. Now, everybody was asking me about this error as well. This is totally a normal error. We only want Equalizer APO installed on one device, and that is the Hi-Fi cable or what we only Equalizer APO Configuration Editor. Now, everybody was asking me about this error as well. This is totally a normal error. We only want Equalizer APO installed on one device, and that is the Hi-Fi cable or what we've renamed now to be the Art Tune. This error is saying, hey, hold on a second. Your default device doesn't have Equalizer APO. We're to get to the default devices in a second, but you don't want Equalizer APO installed on your default device. You don't want the Art Tune cable to be your default device. We're only going to use that in Call of Duty. So bear with me, just ignore this error. We're only going to have to open this when we switch tunes, maybe during the season or when you're setting things up. So you can just click no here. But yours should look just like mine because we did place those config files in there. If the red line isn't popping up down here, or if it looks slightly different, don't freak out. It looks different based on resolution and how the window's scaled and how you're zoomed in, so just follow along on the steps. Now, what we're going to want to do is we're going to hit the blue open button here at the top left and select the config file that you downloaded and placed in. Now here it's called the ERS temp. I'm most likely going to keep it named that so you can open that here. Once you open that, the only thing you need to do in here is click both of these open panel buttons, check apply automatically, click apply, and then click OK. And you're going to do that for both plugins. For some reason, when I export the settings, it doesn't transfer over. So that's just the one step you're going to have to do. Once you're done with that, you can close this tab at the top, and you can even close this window. It's totally good. If you want to make sure that Equalizer APO is installed on the Hi-Fi cable, when you click this drop down, the only name you should see under the playback devices is the Hi-Fi cable or Art Tune, whatever you named it. So we configured the Hi-Fi cable, we loaded the configuration. When you click this drop down, the only name you should see under the playback devices is the Hi-Fi cable or Art Tune, whatever you named it. So we configured the Hi-Fi cable, we loaded the configuration files inside of Equalizer APO. The last things we need to do are configure Voicemeeter so you can actually hear that virtual cable installed, and also configure Hisuvi so that the surround sound is processed correctly. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to start with Voicemeeter. So you can find Voicemeeter in the start menu, or you can just search for it like I did here. I'm going to go ahead and reset all of the settings because for some reason it just saved everything that I had done before.